What's up everybody, Demon back. Welcome to a brand new video, and today we're going to be covering everything we know about Rodan based off the Monarch timeline and the painting we got in Kong Skull Island. So first of all, talking about the painting from Kong Skull Island, there's a couple things we can note from it. Number one is that Rodan seems to be doing battle with the humans. You can see a small human figure here with the bow and arrow, potentially shooting arrows up at Rodan. Number two is that either the painting is really huge and this is an actual normal-sized human in the real world holding a light up to the painting, or it looks like someone back in the day of the time the painting was made had some sort of light. Maybe they're holding fire. I can't quite tell what they would be holding if that's not a normal person with the flashlight in modern day. Rodan's design looks fairly usual to what we've seen, although it does look like he has a redesign to the back end of him, with the tail either not being present or splitting off into two bits. It also looks like he's going to be featured with a much longer neck in this movie than usual. Now, there is some debate as to whether the things coming out of his mouth are cracks on the painting wall, arrows from the soldier, or Rodan's uranium beam. Personally, I'm leaning towards cracks on the cave painting because I don't really think we're going to be getting Rodan with the uranium beam. If anything, I think that's supposed to be an Easter egg or a reference to it, but not a reference to the fact that he will have that in the upcoming Godzilla movie. I don't know why, I just don't think that's going to be a thing Rodan is going to have. Doesn't seem like too many of the monsters in the Monsterverse seem to be very gimmicky, and that seems like they're trying to add a gimmick to Rodan just like it did in the Heisei era. Now, there's also some debate as to whether this paint splotch on the Mothra painting we recently got is supposed to be Rodan as well. I don't think so. I don't think that's at all what this is supposed to be. It looks just like some scratches on the wall or a paint splotch or something. I don't think that is at all supposed to be Rodan. And the same thing with the final painting of Godzilla and King Ghidorah doing battle. There is a Rodan looking shape in the picture, but I'm not sure that's necessarily supposed to be Rodan. Maybe an Easter egg to the fact that Godzilla and Rodan will team up against Ghidorah, but I don't think that's actually supposed to be Rodan. Now getting into the 1991 listing on the Monarch timeline, reading Isla de Mona. The covert Monarch team establishes a quarantine zone around the island's dormant volcano under the guise of environmental research. Over the coming years, what began as a small scientific outpost will expand to become a full containment facility around the mouth of the volcano. Now, at first glance, this might not mean much to you, but if you are familiar with the original Rodan movie, as well as Rodan's origins in Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, you would know why this is very important. Rodan has always been tied to volcanoes. Back in his own Solo movie, he was sleeping under a volcano, and when he emerges from the ground after hatching, he emerges from a volcano. He even dies in a volcano at the end of that movie. Then, he's resurrected in the volcano and brought to life in Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, and when he goes back to sleep after the events of that movie leading into Invasion of Astro Monster, he goes back to sleep in the ground in the rock near a volcano. That just shows that Rodan has always been connected to these volcanoes, so it does make sense that this is our Rodan Easter egg on the Monarch timeline. It's especially noticeable because it gets its own event on a Monarch video. And besides, why else would Monarch quarantine and create a whole outpost researching some random volcano? It doesn't make a lot of sense if they're not trying to contain some sort of Muto. Now, if you want to go into the actual history of Isla de Mona, there is no volcano attached to the island. Isla de Mona is a small island in Puerto Rico, but it is famous for its caves as well as its cave paintings, which is why I think it's brought up as the location for Rodan. Seeing as though we do have a nice cave painting of Rodan, it does make sense that somewhere in real life culture that has cave paintings like this would be used as the base for Rodan's whereabouts. Now, Isla de Mona is in the North Atlantic Ocean, so it puts it far away from the South Pacific where Skull Island is. So we can rule out that Rodan will have some sort of connection to Skull Island, assuming that he actually is on Isla de Mona, which I do believe he is. If you want to go into history and find actual volcanic eruptions in 1991, you're not going to find much. There was a cataclysmic eruption of Mount Pinatubo in the Philippines in 1991, and it was the second largest volcanic eruption of this century, but that is the only eruption to happen. There is no volcano on the Puerto Rican island of Mona. But I think what's happening here is that the Monsterverse is taking the real-life event of the eruption of Pinatubo, and it's connecting it to the Puerto Rican islands so that we can have a full story fleshed out for Rodan. Maybe in the Monsterverse, the eruption of Mount Pinatubo was caused by Rodan, or it could just be a reference to it, the same way that the Fukushima meltdown was semi-referenced as in the Jinjura meltdown in Godzilla 2014. But I do believe, as many other news channels have reported, that this is our very first Easter egg as to where Rodan is in the Monsterverse. So don't be surprised in Godzilla King of the Monsters when he emerges from a volcano that Monarch is trying to contain. Thanks guys, I hope you enjoyed this short update. I know I've kind of neglected the Monarch timeline for quite a while, but it's time I finally started getting into it, so I wanted to talk about that. See you guys next time. I hope you all enjoy. D-Man, out.